Hello everybody, this is Dragonzilla here, and for Halloween this year, I will be talking about the NES Godzilla Creepypasta by Cosbydaf. Now this will be the first time I have done a review on something that isn't a figure, but I have always wanted to make a video dedicated to NGC, aside from the how it should have ended video. The link to that will be in the description below. And spoilers for those who haven't seen or read it yet. But anyway, here we go, and this is the story. Our main character is a guy named Zack, who is a massive Godzilla fan, and he also loves Nintendo games. So it makes sense that when the game Godzilla Monster and Monsters comes out, he receives it for his 10th birthday. But a year later, he regretfully gives it away. However, many years later, Zack buys a brand new Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES for short, and his friend Billy manages to find a copy of Godzilla Monster of Monsters, as well as The Legend of Zelda, Bomberman, and Action 52. The game starts off normal, until Godzilla battles the squid kaiju Ghidorah, who glitches uncontrollably, and then he encounters an oversized Mogira. Zack thinks nothing of this at first, and puts it down as an old game that is just polluted in glitches, and time hasn't been kind to it. But as he plays on, he soon realizes that isn't the case at all. The worlds that were in the original game are not present either, as they have been replaced by new worlds, but the boards are the same, and not only that, there are also some new kaiju in the game. The first new monster is Titanosaurus, who Zack doesn't remember being in the game, and believes that maybe Titanosaurus was going to be a boss character, but was replaced by Varen. So with that thought, he gets very excited, thinking that maybe he is playing the prototype version. However, when he moves on to the next world, he notices Biollante, and is confused because Godzilla vs. Biollante came out in 1989, only a year after the game was released, and decides that perhaps Toho were going to have Biollante in the game to promote the upcoming movie for the following year. Kinda similar to the merchandise for Godzilla vs. Kong coming out a year before the actual movie itself. But when he arrives onto the next world, Trance, he sees Orga, a kaiju who did not appear until Godzilla 2000. And I love this quote that Zack gives: "Those guys at Toho may be smart, but I'm pretty sure that they couldn't see into the future. If they could, then they would never have given Roland Emmerich the rights to make that horrible Godzilla movie." And that's when it begins to occur to Zack that he has gotten a hacked version of the game. And from this point on, following the worlds after Trance, more new kaiju, regardless whether they appeared before or after the game was released, start to appear. These include Space Godzilla, Mander, Megalon, Batra, Gorosaurus, Kumonga, 91 King Ghidorah, who later evolves into Mecha King Ghidorah, Destroyer, and even Magma makes a cameo as a mini-boss at one point. The kaiju bosses from the original game are on one hand still present, but for the most part they are not, as they have been replaced by not monsters which start off as mixed-up versions of the kaiju they're meant to be, until eventually come to the point where they look absolutely nothing like the real counterparts. Throughout the game, Zack encounters other monster enemies, and I'm kinda mixed on these creatures. Some of these beasts look pretty cool and make me wish that they are actual kaiju from the Godzilla universe itself, and there are others that don't really look like they belong to the franchise. I'm not criticizing any of these designs, and I'm sure that they would make great kaiju themselves. They just look a bit too demonic. But that's just my opinion. However, there is one that is the antagonist of the story, and that is the monster Red, who freaks Zack out on the first encounter, but after the second chase, Zack gets very excited, and in celebration he insults Red, which turns out to be a big mistake, as from this point on, Red begins to torment Zack throughout the game. But more on him later. In the third world, there is also a quiz level, and the Face character, who's just called Face, asks Zack some yes and no questions, and at one point, Face asks the question, "Would you like a new monster?" And when Zack answers yes, he is rewarded with his second favourite monster, Anguirus. And fun fact, Anguirus was originally supposed to be in the real game itself, but was scrapped for an unknown reason. However, his sprite exists. I gotta say I really like that 8-bit model of Anguirus in the story. Seems very faithful to his Destroy All Monsters incarnation. So good work, Cosbydaf. Good work indeed. So except for the strangeness, the first 4 levels play out normally. However, it's when Zack reaches the 5th world, Entropy, that's when the game starts to get weird. On the quiz level, Face asks questions that have gone from random to disturbing, and when he asks Zack, "Do you like Mothra?" and Zack answers no, he replies back by saying, "Too bad," and takes away not only Anguirus, but Godzilla too, leaving only Mothra. So Zack is understandably frustrated by this, because Mothra was a difficult character to play as in the game. However, he has no choice but plays on as Mothra, and hopes that Godzilla and Anguirus will return later on. Entropy starts off quiet, as Mothra flies in a forest that is occupied by a herd of macrochenia. Well, to be more accurate, they're referred as deer creatures, but they have got the trunk-like noses, so they're clearly macrochenia. Soon the environments go from a natural forest to an apocalyptic nuclear wasteland, something that would make the Queen of the Monsters herself upset, and eventually he comes to a level that shows 3 periods of time. A blue hourglass shows creatures from the past, then a green hourglass shows military tanks of the present, and finally a red hourglass shows creatures from the future. One of them turns out to be a mini-boss. Red then begins to torment Zack by recreating one of the levels as a past memory, and after defeating a creature called the Moon Beast, he reminds Zack of the time his girlfriend Melissa met her untimely demise by making messages that say, "Melissa, kill yourself." Not only that, but shortly afterwards, in the maze levels, there are even statue faces of Melissa herself that all stare back at him. Imagine waking up in the middle of the night and seeing this face staring directly into your soul. In the next world, Exodus, Godzilla returns, but not Anguirus. However, after the quiz level, right after Face asks the question, "Will you miss me?" Zack is given a new monster, who is a strange-looking bat-like creature called Solomon. Now Solomon is an interesting beast, who seems to be fierce but strong, and each time Zack completes a stage with him, the quote, "Still the best 1973" pops up. Also, side note and a little fun fact, Solomon was also the name of the Stegosaurus who appeared in the Dragon Complex, an animation I made a long time ago. One stage is a city level that you would have thought would have been in the real game shows up. Towards the end of Exodus, Zack enters the boss stage with Solomon, expected to battle not Ghidorah, but instead he fights all the replacement bosses, which all leads up to not Ghidorah, who turns out to be a Dorat, but it quickly evolves into the Chimera, which is really a mixed hybrid of all the replacement bosses. It looks like Daimajin as a samurai centaur. After the battle, the last level for Exodus is a cemetery where Zack encounters a blue angel and feels like he is at peace. But this is short-lived, as Red shows up and attacks the angel, who sacrifices herself in order for Godzilla to escape. But when Red comes after Godzilla again, he is seen devouring the angel, and this makes Zack furious, and he says to the Hell Beast, "You're going to pay." Red stops and threateningly roars at Zack. The final world, Zenith, is what I call Planet Nightmare Fuel, and it's here where the graphics in the game are no longer 8-bit, but look real. These levels involve blood, guts, lava and fire, and in most creepypastas, this is where the narrator would say, "It no longer resembled 8-bit, it looked real." Well, this line does not occur in the story, and there's really no need because the screenshots speak for themselves. He quickly discovers that the monsters have shrunk and are dwarfed by demonic beasts, much to his horror. And in one level, the enemies are headless Gigans and mixed hybrids of previous kaiju bosses, and they all come together to form this abomination. After defeating Mecha King Ghidorah and Destroyer, Zack has his final encounter with Red, something that he has been dreading. However, this is no ordinary boss fight, it is a battle of life and death, but the scary part is that every attack Red makes on Godzilla and his kaiju allies, Zack can feel their pain. He pleads and begs for Red to let him go, but the demonic red creature refuses, and continues to strike the player with endless torture. Let's now talk about Red himself. He is a creation of Cosbydaf, and is the first thing that comes to mind as soon as I hear the word creepypasta. Most people would think of either Jeff the Killer, Slender Man, or that green creeps thing from the Minecraft franchise, but for me, since I'm a kaiju fan, it's Red. And thus red is my favourite colour, as well as green, but I digress. And when he makes his first appearance, Zack quotes, "I haven't seen all the Godzilla movies, but I'm pretty damn sure this wasn't in any of them, so this had to be something the creators made up. But what kind of sick fuck would put this in a children's game?" Red is capable at not only breaking the fourth wall, as he does stare at Zack a few times, but he is also a shapeshifter, as his first form is of a scorpion, despite Zack describing him as a spider beast. But to me, he looks more like a scorpion. His second aquatic form appears to be of a demonic fish. His third flying form is either a bat, or it could be a dragon, but I think he's meant to take on the appearance of a bat. And as for his final form, well, to be truthful, when compared to the other forms, Red's final form is pretty laughable, as he looks more like a kangaroo crossed with a lizard. I think Cosbydaf could have come up with something a little bit better, but anyway, his final form is the toughest, and all of Zack's kaiju fall. Mothra is the first to go as she gets devoured. Solomon, who once actually served Red, but soon turned against him, just managed to take him down, until Red reconstructs his body and crushes Solomon to death. He fires red-hot needles at Anguirus, causing him to bleed since Gigan and fake Godzilla, and as for the King of the Monsters himself, well, he meets the same demise as Mothra, to which he is devoured. And yes, seeing these three kaiju that we all know and love getting slaughtered is pretty traumatizing. Seriously, I remember these images of Godzilla and Anguirus meeting their untimely demise at the hands of Red was burnt into my brain for a while, but I've long since gone over it. Red then reveals that he was the entity who caused Melissa to end her life, and he attempts to murder Zack by paralysing his heart. And just when it looks like all hope is lost, the Blue Angel saves Zack and reveals herself to be the spirit of Melissa. She confirms to him that Red was responsible for her death and continues to torture her in the afterlife, but she helps Zack with all her love by unlocking a fifth monster, Acacius the Golden Light, who is by far the strongest monster, and after a long battle to the death, he slays Red. I will say this for Acacius, for a monster, he looks like a knight rather than a city-destroying kaiju. After Red is destroyed, Melissa then resurrects Zack's characters as well as Face himself, and promises an emotional Zack that they'll be together again and she loves him. Everybody says that this ending is pretty weak, and I have to agree on that one. No wonder I did my own version of the ending. Wink wink. But anyway, after all that experience with the game, Zack is able to move again and hits the hay, i.e. goes to bed. The next morning, Zack wakes up all confused and wonders what happened the previous night. Was it all for real? Or did he doze off while playing the game and dreamt it all? His computer reveals the events of last night were all true, which only gives him more questions such as, what was Red? Was Melissa really in the game? And should he play it again? So he contacts his friend Billy, asking him whether or not he tampered with the game, to which Billy denies it, and they attempt to contact the person who sold the game to Billy, except he hands up with no results. Billy offers to take the game away, however Zack declines, needing time to think about it. Later that day, Zack takes the game to the lake and attempts to destroy it until he starts to think about Melissa and has absolutely no idea of what to do with it. so he decides to sell the game on eBay, to which this leads into the sequel, NES Replay, where the game is bought by a guy named Carl, and not to mention that it has Rodan in it, as well as King Caesar. Caesar, Caesar. Sorry, I couldn't resist. But the story is unfortunately, at the time of making this video, incomplete, as only 5.5 chapters have so far been published. However, NGC ends with Zack giving a warning to the buyer, and quotes, "Be careful. And if you feel that the game is literally messing with your mind, shut the damn thing off." And that's NES Godzilla Creepypasta. And my thoughts on it? Well, I think it's a great story. I've heard some folks say that for an online horror story, it's too long. Well, that's because I think it's supposed to be more like a novel, rather than a campfire story, like most other creepypastas. It's ideal for kaiju fans to read or listen to for Halloween. In fact, it was NGC which made me buy the NECA NES Godzilla figure, and I usually place them on the desk when I go to listen to the story. Well, I have them on the desk at any time of the year, to be truthful. And it was also this online horror story which inspired me to write my own creepypasta, Scream of the Daleks, to which I've provided the link to that video. Some YouTubers have done their own narrations for the story, but I personally recommend Goji73's narration, as that is the far more superior version. Again, the link to the playlist will be in the description below. This is Dragzilla signing out, take care, and happy Halloween.